I built a business from my garage. My brother tried to steal it all. My family backed him over me. Now I'm rich, and they're broke and begging. Alright, buckle up, because this is a story of the wildest ride I've ever lived through. How my own brother tried to snake the business I built from the ground up, and how I turned that chaos into $1 million empire. Part 1: The Fall Before the Rise. If someone had told me 5 years ago that my biggest enemy wouldn't be market competition or economic downturns, but my own brother, I would have laughed them out of the room. But here we are. Let me rewind a bit. My name's Alex. I was the quiet kid growing up, the one who spent weekends taking apart old computers and watching YouTube videos about startup pitches, while my brother Mason was out charming every living being with a pulse. Mason was 2 years older, ridiculously charismatic, and knew how to get what he wanted. He coasted on that charm all through school, all through life, honestly. I wasn't jealous of him, not exactly. It was more like I'd accepted my role in the family ecosystem. Mason was the star, and I was the technician in the background. Reliable, invisible, you know how that goes. So when I started my own tech repair business at 21, no one took me seriously. My parents called it Alex's little hobby. Mason called it cute. I worked out of my garage for the first year, fixing busted phones and laptops while eating canned soup and hustling 16-hour days. What started as repairs eventually expanded into refurb sales, custom builds, even small business IT support. I had a knack for it. Clients liked that I didn't talk down to them, I didn't overcharge, and most importantly, I didn't cut corners. By the time I hit 25, I had 3 part-time employees, a leased commercial space, and contracts with 2 local schools. Still, my parents didn't really notice until the money started coming in. That's when Mason got interested. Let me be clear, Mason wasn't broke. He had bounced around from job to job, doing sales mostly, cars, timeshares, even some sketchy crypto stuff, but nothing stuck. He always had a new, big idea, but none of them ever actually made money. Then he saw mine was making money, and suddenly he was so proud of me and wanted in. I was suspicious from the jump, but you know how it is, he's my brother. And a small, needy part of me wanted his approval too. He started dropping by the shop, just to hang out. Then it became, hey, let me help out with sales. Then, hey, I have this pitch idea for investors. And before I knew it, he was in every meeting, smoothing his hair back, shaking hands like he already owned the place. He charmed a few of my clients, even tried to rename the business Mason & Company. I kid you not. Said it sounded more corporate. I nearly threw a wrench at him. At this point, my gut was screaming. I started digging and found out he'd been privately messaging some of my contractors behind my back, telling them I was thinking of stepping down, and he'd be taking over soon. He even filed paperwork, with the state, trying to register a new LLC under my company's name. The man was actively trying to take my business out from under me. And the worst part? My parents sided with him. They said things like, well, Mason has the personality for business, and maybe you need someone like him to scale things up. Like I hadn't bled for this company. Like I wasn't already scaling just fine on my own. When I confronted him, Mason played it cool at first, said it was a misunderstanding. But the mask slipped fast. He told me point blank that I didn't have the guts to take it to the next level, and that he was just helping before I crashed it into the ground. That night, I locked him out of every system, email, client portals, even the Slack channels. I pulled every document he'd touched and rewrote every proposal from scratch. I stayed up for 48 hours straight cleaning up the mess he left behind. And then I made the decision that changed everything. I went full nuclear. I rebranded. Overnight, new name, new logo, new website. Every client got a personal message from me explaining the transition, and not so subtly mentioning that Mason was no longer affiliated with us. It was risky, yeah. I lost 2 contracts over the confusion, but I kept my integrity. And more importantly, I got mad, motivated, sharp. Mason, of course, lost his mind. He accused me of sabotaging his future and told our parents I was unstable. He even threatened legal action until I reminded him that he had 0 ownership or stake in the company and would be laughed out of court. It wasn't easy after that. The next 6 months were hell. We had an unexpected supply chain issue that nearly tanked our sales during back-to-school season. One of our technicians ghosted mid-rollout. And Mason, bless his soul, decided to start his own competing business 2 blocks away, literally calling it Better Tech Bros. He poached one of my newer hires, ran Facebook ads with my old logo, which I legally had to fight him on, and even started telling people I was a crook. It was war. But I didn't stop. I reinvested every cent I had. I pulled 80-hour weeks. I networked like crazy, hit every tech expo, school board meeting, and city small biz event I could get to. I made noise and real partnerships. Within a year, I landed a contract with a statewide charter school network worth 6 figures. I hired a full-time operations manager. I started getting approached by angel investors, and for the first time in my life, people started taking me seriously. And Mason? Well, last I heard, Better Tech Bros went under after 6 months. Apparently charm only gets you so far when you're under-delivering and over-promising to everyone in town. The Yelp reviews alone were brutal. But don't worry. He's not out of the story yet, because what came next? It made everything up to this point look like the pre-show, so by now, I'd clawed my way out of the mess my brother Mason left behind. My business, reborn under a new name, new brand, and a way more professional team, was finally stable. Not just stable, actually. We were growing. I had just landed our first 6-figure contract, and the monthly revenue charts were starting to look like a ski slope in reverse. You'd think this would be the part where the drama stops, right? Wrong. Mason, despite tanking his knockoff business Better Tech Bros, which still makes me cringe just typing it, wasn't ready to disappear quietly. Nah, he decided to take the family drama to a whole new level. Let me set the scene. It was Thanksgiving, our first whole family get-together since the business blow-up. I wasn't thrilled to be going, but my mom had guilted me into it with her usual "we're still family" speech. I brought a bottle of wine and a smile that barely held. And Mason? He walked in wearing a suit. Like, who wears a full tailored suit to Thanksgiving dinner unless they're pitching a startup or hiding from the FBI? Turns out it was the former. Sort of midway through dinner, after the turkey, before dessert, he stands up, taps his glass with a spoon, and goes, "I'd like to make a little announcement." I nearly choked on my cranberry sauce. He starts rambling about a new opportunity he's working on, a tech consultancy focused on schools and small businesses. Sound familiar? Yeah, it was exactly my niche. He literally started pitching it at the dinner table, like we were all Shark Tank judges. My parents beamed like proud managers. My uncle clapped. I wanted to throw the pie at his face. Then he goes, "I'm looking for strategic partners, and I'd love to keep it in the family." That was the moment it all clicked. He was trying to poach my parents. See, what I hadn't told you yet is that my parents were sitting on a not insignificant chunk of savings. They'd sold a property a while back, and were looking for investment options. I had briefly mentioned my business to them months earlier, thinking maybe they'd want to help fund an expansion. They brushed it off at the time. Now I realized why. Mason had gotten to them first. Later that night, when everyone had gone home, I stuck around to help with dishes. My dad pulls me aside and goes, "You should really consider working with Mason. He's got the personality, you've got the brains. Could be a real team." I honestly thought I was being punked. I told him straight up, "Dad, Mason already tried to steal my company once. Why would I ever go into business with him again?" His reply? "That was just a misunderstanding. You boys need to let that go." Let that go? Like he forgot the part where Mason literally forged state paperwork and tried to hijack my entire operation? I left fuming. But the next day, it got worse. I got an email from one of our biggest school clients, the charter network I mentioned in part 1. They said they had received a new bid from a different tech consultant and wanted to reevaluate their contract with us. When I checked the competitor name, it was Mason's new company. And the logo? A half-baked ripoff of my current one. Same font, same color scheme. I honestly laughed, because it looked like a knockoff brand you'd see on the shelf next to the real one at a dollar store. This dude had the audacity to undercut my pricing and pitch my own client base using strategies he only knew about from when he was snooping around in my office. So now I was pissed, but also laser-focused. I called the school personally, took the superintendent out for lunch. I laid it all out. I didn't trash Mason, I just told the truth. How he wasn't part of my business, how he'd started and tanked a similar company already, how the only reason he knew their needs was because I had built the relationship over 2 years. Thankfully, the superintendent was cool, said they were just doing due diligence, and appreciated the transparency. They renewed the contract with me a week later and gave us a bigger scope. Huge relief, but that wasn't the end of it. Mason doubled down. He started spreading rumors in our hometown. Stuff like, Alex's business isn't really his. He got startup money from me. He doesn't actually know tech. He just hires kids to do the work. He's drowning in debt. The new office is just for show. I mean, I wish I was exaggerating. People I hadn't spoken to in years were suddenly messaging me like, "Hey man, just checking in. Everything okay with the business?" That's when I realized he wasn't trying to compete anymore. He was trying to discredit me. I had a full-on meltdown one night. Like, ugly crying in the break room after closing. I was exhausted, paranoid, constantly putting out fires. It felt like every step forward came with 3 punches to the gut. I even considered selling the business, just walking away. But then something happened. My lead tech, Jaden, a 22-year-old kid I hired straight out of community college, walked in, saw me wiping my eyes, and just said, "Hey man, we got your back. Whatever you need." That hit me like a truck. Because for the first time I realized this wasn't just my business anymore. This was a team, a real one. And they believed in me, so I got back up, and I did what Mason never could. I put the work in. We tightened operations, upgraded our software stack, rebuilt our website from scratch. I hired a legit brand consultant to redesign our logo, made sure it looked nothing like anything Mason could claim. And we started building an app, too, something to streamline service tickets and give our school clients a dashboard to manage all their devices. Game changer. Oh, and that investment I was hoping for from my parents? I found it elsewhere. One of the school board members connected me with his cousin, who happened to be a retired angel investor. She sat down with me, looked over our numbers and said, "Why hasn't anyone funded you yet?" A month later, I had my first $250,000 injection. Clean, no strings. She just asked for a small equity share and some board involvement. Done deal. Meanwhile, Mason, he was drowning. Apparently, my parents did invest in his new company, about $50,000. He spent half of it on marketing, some on a new office lease, and the rest? No one really knows. But what I do know is that by Q2 he was in the red, had missed payroll, and one of his clients threatened legal action for breach of contract. The kicker? He tried to come crawling back. Again. He texted me and I quote, "Hey bro, let's bury the hatchet. I've got ideas. Call me?" I didn't even reply. Meanwhile, I was back on the rise. We had stable contracts, a killer team, and, thanks to an angel investor named Dana, our first serious capital infusion. But I wasn't ready for what came next, because what Dana brought to the table wasn't just money, it was vision. We were grabbing coffee in her office, this sleek little space downtown filled with startup energy and whiteboards full of aggressive goals, when she hit me with it. "Alex, you ever think about franchising?" I laughed, like actually laughed. Franchising? Me? I was just some dude who fixed Chromebooks in a garage 5 years ago. I thought she was joking. She wasn't. Dana laid it out for me. She said my model, community-based, honest pricing, fast turnaround, actual tech literacy support for schools, was replicable. She had seen a dozen companies like mine flame out because the founder was too scared to scale. She asked if I wanted to be the next local guy with a solid small biz or something bigger. Honestly, I was terrified, but I was also tired of fear running my life. I had let fear keep me quiet when Mason trampled over me. I let fear stop me from asking for help when I needed it. I wasn't doing that anymore, so I said yes. We got to work. Dana connected me with her legal team, a marketing strategist, and a growth consultant who'd helped build out 2 other franchise-style tech service models. Over the next 6 months, we streamlined every process, every repair step, customer intake flow, inventory system, even our internal training modules. We launched a beta franchise model in a nearby city. A guy named Chris, who ran a side hustle repair gig out of his van, signed on. We trained him, branded his setup, gave him a back-end system, and in 3 months he was profiting, not just surviving, thriving. Then we did it again. And again, by the end of the first year post-investment, we had 5 locations. 5, all profitable. The original shop became our flagship HQ. Jaden, my OG tech guy, got promoted to head of training. My cousin, yes, my cousin, not Mason's sidekick, came on to run community partnerships. I even hired my mom part-time to run local outreach. You know who I didn't hire? Mason. Because guess who started sniffing around again the moment he saw our new site with the map of franchise locations? Yup. One night, I got a message on LinkedIn of all places. Mason, trying to be professional, wrote this whole spiel about burying the hatchet and combining forces. He ended with, "You're killing it, man. Let me know if there's room for someone like me." Room for someone like you? The dude tried to assassinate my business and personality twice, spread lies about me, stole clients, logos, money, and now he wanted in? I ignored it. Around this time, Dana invited me to a private networking retreat in Colorado. It was mostly founders, early-stage tech investors, and a few corporate scouts from bigger players. I felt way out of my league. But that's when I met Marissa. She ran educational software for a national school supply company. She'd seen our branding before. One of her partner schools had switched from Geek Squad to us. She was impressed. Said what we were doing felt like the future of community-based tech services. We kept in touch. 3 months later, her company made an offer. Acquisition. A multi-million-dollar acquisition. The number had 7 digits. 7. I stared at the email for a full hour before calling Dana. Her response? "Told you had it. But here's the wildest part. I didn't sell. At least not all of it. Instead, we negotiated a partial acquisition. 51%. Enough for them to help us scale nationally. But I retained majority creative and operational control. That meant I got paid. Seriously paid. And I still ran the ship. I also negotiated equity and founder bonuses for my team. Jaden literally cried in the office. I did too. Not ashamed. Overnight, I went from living in a rented townhouse with 2 roommates to buying my first property cash. I set up college funds for my niece and nephew, took my mom to Italy, upgraded the company equipment, built an actual break room with snacks and massage chairs. Don't judge. Burnout's real. Oh, and I started therapy. Because, honestly, I needed it. I needed to unpack the years of being overlooked, underestimated, and manipulated, especially by family. Speaking of which, Mason showed up to my office one last time, unannounced. I was in a meeting when the receptionist pinged me. There's a guy here who says he's your brother." I stepped out and saw him. Same charm, same grin, dressed a little less cocky this time. He offered me a handshake. I didn't take it. He said, "Heard you sold the company. Congrats, man." I just nodded. Then he said something I'll never forget. "I was wrong about you. I thought you didn't have it in you. But you proved me wrong." I stared at him for a second and replied, "No, Mason. I didn't prove you wrong. I proved me right." Then, I turned around and went back to my meeting. He never came back.